We hear you. We got you. Step into a world of endless possibilities with Imagen's expanded software support. Now you can utilize your folders of photos to create a profile or edit. Post-production is easier than ever. Whether you're using Lightroom, Photoshop, or Bridge, Imagen seamlessly integrates with your workflow. Open the Imagen app today and try starting from a folder instead of Lightroom Classic.
I hate emails. Like I have a what now 7,362 unread email. I just look at them, I forget about them.
Workflows is a podcast about saving you time and money in your photography business. I'm your host, Scott Weidenkifowitz, a photographer and content creator who struggles with dyslexia, color blindness, introversion, and anxiety stemming from years of being bullied as a child. Guess what? Workflows have been my rock. I have workflows for every aspect of my life. That's why I am so happy to bring you Workflows, a podcast presented by Imagen. As a company dedicated to saving you time and money in your photography business, it makes sense to enhance and expand the conversation to all things workflows. Tune in and subscribe to hear stories, strategies, and tools that can be your rock. Hear from people just like you. Get to work with Workflows. If you don't already know who Maciej is, you are in for a real treat. Here's a quick summary of this incredible person. Maciej is an 80s kid and a father of 4. He has been a destination wedding photographer since 2012 and a Sony Europe ambassador since 2018. You may recognize his work, voice, or face from his many speaking gigs around the world, or maybe from his YouTube channel, which he's been pursuing since 2011. I am so excited for this conversation with my friend, Maciej. The Maciej.
Hey, Scott. How's it going?
It's going well. It's like we haven't done that already. Yeah.
Finally, two worlds collide. My online presence and Scott's online presence.
Yeah. Somehow the screen just vibrated when you did that. That's weird.
Oh, imagine.
So my first question to you is what kind of impact or how fun is it, or like you get to play off the word magic. So
that's so cool. That's cool, right?
Yeah. Like, so how has that like impacted you just in general, being able to use that word and play off, what magic is in general in your brand? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. So, like, basically, it comes from my name, which is Maciej. I'm from Poland, Warsaw, Poland, and long story short, I became Maciej because it was just simpler. It was simpler for people to remember. No one remembers name Maciej. If I would tell you, "Hi, I'm Maciej," 5 minutes later, you're like, "What was his name?" Like something, and then if I would try to write it down for you, it would be Maciek. It would be like Maciej. So even worse. So that's how I kind of became Maciej, because I was serving mostly clients that are English speaking. So I was not serving my local market. I was serving like European market and then American market, and then Americans getting married in Europe. And so I started using this name Maciej, and it just works so well. Like the importance of having a brand name that is recognizable, easy to remember, catchy. Yeah. Like it feels obvious, right? It feels obvious, like, right, no, yeah, brand has to be catchy. But when you get to experience it on like a personal level, going to a wedding and be like, oh, this is our photographer Maciej, and then all the bridesmaids go like, oh my God, what a cool name, Maciej, awesome. Or so just works so well. And then since the word magic itself, it's a hard word to have Instagram like just magic, or Google just magic. You will find the magic tricks and stuff like that. So this is like a bit harder part on this side, SEO wise. So that's why I kind of always use Maciej wedding photographer. So 3 words, Maciej wedding photographer. So hey, what's your name? Hey, I'm Maciej. Oh, how do I find you online? Oh, it's maciejweddingphotographer.com. Oh, it's Instagram at Maciej Wedding Photographer. Oh, it's YouTube at Maciej Wedding Photographer. So like 3 words, and then this makes my brand. I should have some stickers here for video watchers. then I have tons of, kind of like a branding materials, like stickers, like wooden boxes with my Magic logo. So it all kind of works really well. I love using the brand. It's like, it also, the kind of like my goal with the brand is to also present my personality with a simple thing like a logo, colors on my website, boxes that my clients get. It all combines all together with like photography that is like funny, colorful. Yeah, so it's a whole thing. It's a whole philosophy.
Yeah. When I think about your photography and your brand, it stands out because of what you've built with it. You definitely you played off the name so well. Your personality comes through in everything you do, whether it's YouTube videos or your photos and so on. So like it's to me, from the outsider perspective, it's already come across as something that is recognizable, which I think is so well done. So well done.
Yeah. That's like that was the whole goal. But it's also, it's been years building that name.
Yeah.
I kind of rebranded to Magic Wedding Photographer in 2017. So it's been like years of kind of building up on this and adding things to it, like the brand materials, the boxes and so on. It all like started coming together. Like each season I was like, let's say, upgrading my personal presence both within the world of my clients, so they get a lot of stuff that it's branded, they recognize my name and it just works. But then outside, like with my education to wedding photographers, it just also works. Now I've built like 2 different websites. One is like for photographers, one is for my brides, and they have like different color themes, kind of similar, funky and so on, but also different because I want like, this is for my clients, like this is the color of like brand color for my clients, this is the brand color for my education stuff. And so in my YouTube videos you will see the education colors. Then so it's kind of mixed together. But it's a fun thing to do. I like stuff like this. It's with my brand. My goal was always with brand, with my business. The brand was always to be the one who's shooting. I couldn't pull that off if I was building a studio. Like there would be like a different approach, different thinking behind this. Maybe similar steps, but I find it that if you are, I don't know, building a wedding photography business or portrait photography business or family photography business, like you start with the idea, okay, what do I want to do? What is down the road for me in the next couple of years? Because then you start building steps based on your kind of roadmap, right? Like I feel like many wedding photographers, I know I'm jumping through the subject.
It's okay.
Sorry, dude. But
okay.
I want to just finish one. This is how my brain works, by the way. What I want to say, when we're photographers, right? So when we're starting business, usually it starts from a passion to wedding photography or to photography in general. Like you start with like a passion to camera, lenses, taking photos, and then you try to monetize this. So you start taking someone's photos, someone asks you to shoot something, and then you end up being a wedding photographer. I feel like this is a path to be a wedding photographer for like 90% of wedding photographers out there. So you don't think about business map. What is my business plan for the next 5 years? You don't build this as a business. So that's why I think a lot of people like lost in translation the bits about the branding, the strategy, the website, and so on. So I just want to throw this out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this conversation so many times about photography education versus business education. Like I had a formal training in photography in, for college, and I apprenticed for photographers through that process and even after. And I've been in the industry on the business side of things for basically since I left college. But like, to me, it's like if I could go back, I wouldn't do formal training in photography. I would do formal training in business and marketing and then learn photography by assisting and doing and so on. So it's just very, everybody's different. Everybody has their desires, and of course, do what's best for you. But like, that's what I would do if I could go back again.
I kind of agree with you, because there's this balance between a service and art that we always struggle with, kind of. When you start with photography, it's more of an art for, like, treat it as an art.
Yeah.
So it's harder to sell it. It's always
Yeah.
hard to sell stuff like for people who are not used to, marketing strategy and how to be salesy, how to sell this, how to sell albums to my clients, which might mean that you'll end up being a miserable photographer who's not making enough. But yeah, that's I think that's the part of this like business that combines both art and service.
Yeah. Yeah. So
By the way, I don't know if you have seen, that's for video viewers, water bottle with my logo.
Gotta have the brand. So let's step back to the photography part of things for a minute. And I want to know if you could share one thing you do for the photographic process behind the camera that saves you time in the long run.
Cool. So I shoot mirrorless cameras. I think that's the biggest one, to be honest. Like in the shooting process, photography process, to have photo as close to finished as possible when you're shooting it. So I think it became easier when we all switched to mirrorless, and who did not, there's a bright future still awaiting for you, because it's such a huge difference. When we were shooting like 10, 12 years ago using DSLRs, and we would just look through the mirror, not seeing the result, and we'd end up taking photo, looking at the screen, correcting, taking another photo, looking at the screen, missing moments at the time when we're looking at the screen, and then, compensating, and then, thinking about the spot metering versus whatever other metering methods there. It was just a mess, I think.
Yeah.
So I think the technology came with big help for us, letting us see the final results while we're shooting. So for me, setting the settings, and that's including white balance. So exposure, white balance, everything I want to have as close as possible to the final image while shooting, because then the whole process is just going to be way simpler.
Yeah. You are the type of photographer who likes to experiment with adapting lenses on your Sony body, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So are you regularly, when you're shooting a wedding, using adapted lenses, or are you typically using native Sony lenses?
Mm-hmm. So I kind of divide my gear. You could just literally put them on the two different shelves. They are actually on two different shelves in my little wardrobe thing for lenses. How do you call this? I don't know. Sometimes I lose words in English, but that's actually a wardrobe that I just use for lenses instead of clothes. But so I divided my lenses into fun lenses and workhorse lenses. Okay.
Nice.
So my kind of work lenses I use G Master lenses. So I have 24, 35, 50. These are my main three, and they will be on my cameras for during the most important moments, during the moments that I know I have to be fast, during the moments I know I have to take the shot no matter what, and I have to use all the tech that there is, granted to me by the engineers from Japan, meaning the best AF system there is, the sharpest image, and so on, all that stuff I need for the moments that I want to have captured perfectly during the wedding day. And there are slower moments during the wedding day. Each wedding is going to be slightly, different. Some weddings I shoot, they have super long getting ready time, especially when I shoot I shoot a lot of destination weddings in Italy, and the ceremony usually is 5, 6 p.m. So it's quite late in the day. So leading up to that moment when I arrive around 1 p.m., let's say, something like that, there's 3-4 hours of me shooting prior to the actual ceremony, which usually means hang out with, bride and the bridesmaids when they're getting ready, or, the groom, or to whatever, hang out with a couple, their friends. So just moving around, roaming around. And usually that means way more time for experimenting. Mm-hmm. And during that times, I will play with lenses. So thanks to the nature of what I do on YouTube, which is reviewing lenses, cameras, and so on. I have a lot of lenses. I get to try a lot of lenses, and I have access to a lot of lenses. And so there's no like one set of fun lenses, of different lenses that I will take with me. But usually it's going to be something like, I love tilt shift lenses, so it's going to be either some adapted 24 tilt shift from Canon on my Sony, or 45 tilt shift from Canon on my Sony, or they're like new 2 kind of native now lenses that are like third-party ones. Tilt lens from TT Artisan 51.4, amazing lens for like just playing around with like different planes of focus and creative images. They're like free floating lenses. There's just so much, and so many of these lenses, so much stuff that you can use. So I'll just use those slower moments to try to, do something fun, do something else, do something different, do something creative. And funny enough, it all, like, every time I then blog the wedding like this, or, make a gallery, these fun and creative moments, they kind of go into the highlights because they're just different. They kind of, pop on in the gallery from like a really interesting bokeh or a really interesting flare in the background. Something like this always happens with these weird lenses, which never happens with like regular lenses because they're just too perfect.
Yeah, they're designed not to do that.
Exactly. They're built to do any of that.
Yeah.
But I need that too, because this is what I need for all the main stuff. Yeah. And to be honest, when you have a perfect photo, it's you can mess it up in later on in the edit, or you can put a mist filter on it. You can even add flare. You can add flare, you can add grain, you can do so much stuff to ruin the photo, let's say, in terms of like the perfect sharpness and everything. And you cannot do the opposite way. So if you mess something up because you're using your creative lens for the important moment, there is no way back. Yeah, so that's kind of why I have this division. I always shoot with 2 cameras, so it's easier. Sometimes I might just use one camera with like a proper G Master lens and the second one with a fun lens. But yeah, it's playing around on the wedding day. And so that's going to be probably getting ready and portraits, and then later in the day too. Reception can be slower. So yeah.
Is one of the tilt shifts your current favorite adaptive lens, or is there something else that you're playing with that is currently your favorite creative?
Yeah. With tilts, I'm going back and forth. Like this year, I think like every wedding was something else, and I ended up using my good old 24mm tilt shift lens the most because it's just was the most interesting to me, and I'm just so used to that wide angle tilt look. Yeah. So I would say probably that. I've tried anamorphic lenses as well recently for a couple of my, like, let's say, YouTube shoots. So I really love the results, but I have not yet translated it into a wedding work so it works.
I feel like that would be. I feel like the mirrorless bodies would need an anamorphic correction in camera to
sadly
to really be able to visualize it.
Yes,
so perfectly.
You don't see the kind of final image. Yeah. But so it's kind of like a guessing work because like when we're talking anamorphic lenses, we're talking lenses that that are squeezing the image. In your, like, inside the lenses, they're built to squeeze the image. So you have to unsqueeze the image in post-production, making it a lot wider and having this kind of panoramic aspect ratio to it, which is like something like 20 something to 9 something. It's a very panoramic, and it's amazing. It's an amazing look, but yeah, it's slightly more difficult to shoot because you see everything squeezed in your viewfinder on screen. So, and then you have to focus manually. So you have to rely on focus peaking and stuff like this, which is also not easy, but then the results are just so good. And then on top of that, the best part my favorite part is the anamorphic flare. So if you watch stuff like Star Wars by J.J. Abrams, you see these streaks of light, like these blue streaks of light, like coming horizontally across the frame. So these are just like natural anamorphic flares, and they just look so fire, man.
Have you tried any of those? There's now, like, I know Moment is making, and I think a few others, filters that just do the flare from an anamorphic.
I've seen it.
Style.
I want, like, I have a problem with Moment because I'm in Europe. They, like, the shipping to Europe costs like 3 times what the product costs. So it's just like I've been following these, and I want to try one of these things too. Yeah,
send it to him.
Moment. I think I reached out to Moment on Instagram once, and they just, went silent on me. So, 1 minute of silence for Magic. No, joking aside, I kind of feel like there is a space for the flare, the filters that would just ruin the image, because all the lenses are so perfect, you're putting the filters that are doing the mist thing, so blooming the highlights and so on. I saw, like, I don't know if you know Pierre Tilambert, YouTuber, photographer, French photographer living in US. So he had this series of, like, he accidentally dropping a filter that has a crack in it now, and he puts it on a lens, and it creates amazing flare. So, I think someone could just make.
That's a good idea.
A ton of different ones. Maybe someone is making them, and I'm not aware. But yeah, there's a space for that for sure. For like ruining the images now, they're just too perfect.
Yeah. Imperfection.
What do you use? Do you use? Wait, what do you shoot with?
So I shoot Nikon. Nikon's in my blood, and I've tried all the other cameras, and I keep coming back to Nikon. So I'm a Nikon guy for life at this point. But I do have some others that I like to play with and stuff, but mostly Nikon Z72 is
Are you adapting anything to it?
Not right now. I mean, there was a time when I was adapting the f-mount lenses, but now I'm purely Z-mounts. But I would love to do some TT Artisan lenses and stuff like that at some point. Just not priority.
Yeah. They're great. I was playing, like, a couple months ago. Sam Hurd was in Poland. We were doing, like, a little workshop here and a shoot, and he had the new Nikon ZFC. Is it? Yeah. And we adapted
just ZF. The ZFC was
ZF.
the crop.
Oh, sorry. ZFC is the crop one. Yeah. Yep. So the ZF, and he had this adapter for Leica lenses, motorized one. I have one for Sony as well, and I have a Leica lens, Sumilax 50mm f1.4, which is the best lens in terms of flare that there is, in my opinion. And we mounted this on his Nikon, and it was amazing. Like, the way it was focusing, tracking the subject, it was just so fast. It was better than through an adapter on Sony. I think that these adapters, particularly these ones, the Tech Card adapters, just worked better on the Nikon one. But I was amazed. So yeah, there's a potential. There's a chance. You just need to spend, like, what, $5,000 for, like, a Leica lens.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all. Easy. Yeah, right. So let's move into business for a little bit. What now is one thing you do, and we're going to get to Imagine eventually, so let's skip Imagine for the time being. Sure. What is one thing you do for the business that saves you either time, money, or both?
Yeah, so funny, like, interestingly enough, maybe not funny enough, I did started my YouTube channel during the pandemic, but it was like a second year of pandemic, so 2021. I wish I had started in 2020. This was like a really good year to grow a channel because everyone was at home, but I was kind of, I don't know, trying to survive. And then in the January 21, I started my channel, and because I had nothing else to do, obviously. And then weddings came back. But I decided I used to shoot like around 20-25 weddings and all per year, and almost every wedding would be traveling somewhere. So not local weddings in Poland, but traveling to Europe, traveling around the world, various places basically. And during the pandemic, also I had like my 4th child just before pandemic in 2018. So So during the pandemic, while spending just this time at home and with my kids, when like it kind of started coming back, it was like I was just too tired to travel all the time like this. And since I started my YouTube channel, it felt like a good side hustle that I can just do along the wedding photography. So I kind of divided myself into YouTube Magic and Magic Wedding Photographer. Okay, so doing two things at once. And after shooting weddings for so many years, I feel like everything wedding related and wedding business related just became so effortless to me in terms of like the whole workflow. So before that, I was just like constantly polishing my workflow, thinking, okay, how can I make things faster for me? Okay, I need a faster cable between my computer and my NAS station. So when I do the archive, it's faster. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I need a faster SSD drive, but I need to make sure that the card reader is as fast as I can. And then my memory cards are having the fastest readout speed, so I can quickly dump the file and so on. So I was like polishing my workflow. So when the time came back with weddings, and I was doing YouTube and weddings, and I was doing like YouTube every week, and then I was doing weddings during the season every week. I felt like weddings is just so simple. I just need to make sure that I have my batteries charged and my memory cards, empty, and that's it. And then I would show up at the wedding, I would shoot the wedding, I would dump the files the next day, and call the wedding like really quickly, edit, get it edited, bam, done. Yeah. And then I could focus on YouTube. And so I don't know if I have any cool stuff for you. I have calling system that is like fast. I'm really fast in terms of 1010. This one goes, this one doesn't go. So yeah.
Well, I think there's two things in there. That one is diversifying your revenue portfolio, like how you're making money in your business, diversifying that. You've got YouTube to create to make money. You've got your education to make money, like from workshops and things like that. You've got the wedding photography, but at the same time, specific to the wedding photography, you're getting your workflow so streamlined that it takes no enormous amount of effort in order to do all the processes you need to, which in turn saves you time in the long run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think
like maybe one thing that could be a good tip for our listeners, this is something new. So I just set it up like a couple of weeks ago. So I redid my website, and my new website has this automation. So that when someone fills out the contact form, it gets this like not yet the pricing brochure, but it gets like the first part of the email marketing. I use the Flowdesk for like email marketing. Mm-hmm. So they're like connected. So my contact form is connected through Zapier to add a person to the segment of like a new inquiry. It sends the email like, hey, thanks, I did get your inquiry. This is my basic information. This is the galleries you can watch. I'll review the inquiry and come back to you within 24 hours. Yeah. And it's nicely branded and just looks amazing, like the email itself. And it just helps so much. I don't know how many of you struggle with email. I told that to you, Scott. I hate emails. Mm-hmm. Like I have a 7,362 unread email. I just look at them, I forget about them, and sometimes I have to be honest, I forget about inquiries that I get from weddings. Oh boy. It happened a few times because the pile. So like for me, automations like this like really help.
Just to plug another episode, you mentioned that you use Flowdesk. 1 or 2 episodes prior to yours, Natalie Frank, the head of community at Flowdesk, was our guest. So anybody listening, amazing. If you're interested in hearing from Natalie from Flowdesk, check out that episode. So had to do that plug.
You have to connect me with her. I have to do the networking with the people at Flowdesk to be better emailer.
I love Flowdesk. I love Flowdesk.
It's so good. It's so good. I was setting up things today earlier for like my educational stuff. It's just so amazing. It's just so good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's come a long way, and there's still so much, potential for them to go. So
Yeah.
So you briefly, I think I cut you off when you were moving into culling and editing. So I'm going to ask you now, again, let's not talk about Imagen right now. Let's talk about maybe even things that you were doing prior to Imagen. But what is one thing that you do for editing that has saved you time?
Yeah. So I had like, that's been always for me like a very simple editing workflow. So first of all, my first step would be cull images. Okay. So, and I put them in 2 different folders. So I cull outside of Lightroom. There's like a big debate out there over like people, should we do Lightroom culling or should we do like Photo Mechanic or like other software or like Bridge or like whatever there is out there. And yeah, for me, I prefer to do it outside of Lightroom because my goal is to import Lightroom things that will be my final images to be like most of them will be my final images. Okay. So, and then big thing, maybe I should have started with that. I am one Lightroom guy. Okay. One Lightroom catalog guy. That's the full sentence. I'm a one Lightroom catalog guy for entire of my stuff, like everything.
Yeah.
I keep my Lightroom catalog on my MacBook Pro, 14-inch M1 Max. Apple, please send me the new ones for free because this is really expensive, but really amazing stuff. No, I'm joking, but yeah, M1 Max, amazing, top spec. And I have my Lightroom catalog on the drive. I hate doing external drives because of so much traveling. Things dangling off of my laptop is just the worst nightmare for me, like when I have to put something, eject something. So I prefer to have everything on the SSD that is on my laptop. So I have all the working files, the main catalog. Okay. Then I come back home to my office and I plug my MacBook to my CalDigit TS4 docking station, and that fires up like a 32-inch display, speakers, 10 gigabit connection to my NAS archive system, one more drive that is here, Ethernet connection. So everything just like connects like this. And then I have access to my archive that is like 40 terabytes of data that like automatically backups whatever is in my laptop, and I do all the copies and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But the general idea is one Lightroom catalog for the reason that every time I need something, I just open my laptop. And the Lightroom catalog is always open on my computer. Yeah. You never turn off Mac computers, right? That's the rule. So whatever you have open, it's always open. So for me, Lightroom is like almost always open, and I have access to everything. That's very convenient because like I have access to all the weddings that I'm working on right now. Maybe one wedding, maybe one session. I have access to my education file there, so I'm doing reviews. So I'm like keep comparing lenses, keep comparing cameras. So I need like constant access to the reference lenses. For example, I need to find this image that I've shot with, I don't know, 35 1.8 Sony, and I just do all my files, and there's like a couple 100,000 of them, and we like metadata filter, blah 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 blah. Okay. Yep. So that's a big part of my workflow, having just one catalog. People say it slows computer down. I don't know. I don't know who that
depends on the
people
settings
are.
of Lightroom, of course, but yeah.
It's been working for me for years. No problem at all.
It's funny. I've asked that question to a lot of people at this point and throughout this podcast. And you're the first person, I believe, to bring up hardware as one of the answers. And I think that's an interest. I mean, to me, it makes
I'm a
perfect
hardware
sense.
guy.
Yeah, I mean, so am I. We're very similar in so many ways. It makes sense that having a good hardware setup to make you more, it makes you more productive, right?
Yeah.
I just asked internally in the Imagen Slack for all employees. I did a poll the other day. It was last week, I think, and I said, how many screens do you need to make yourself productive? 1, 2, 3, or 4 or more? Now, I was expecting all the product team to be like 4 or more, but the most popular is 2. And I think that's so interesting because I can't be productive. I mean, I can be productive if I have to on just a laptop screen, that's it. But I'm more productive when I have 2 things side by side and I can just glance. So hardware, it makes a difference. It really does.
It does, 100%, because like For me, I've used to have this travel workshop when I would do one presentation on workflow. And for me, workflow always starts with the question to you, okay? Oh, what does make you productive? Do you prefer working at night? Do you prefer working in the morning? Oh, do you have any other things that you have to work on? Do you have kids that go to school? Like, there's so many things that, that are important, that makes sense when you're setting up your workflow. Because for some, it's going to be, oh, I don't need my memory cards to be fast because I just put them in my computer, I go to sleep, and they're downloading. Okay? Maybe some of us don't have this, let's say, luxury of leaving computer on the table for night because they have 4 kids that we're going to run around and we'll just like accidentally drop your computer.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that like are very individual. And I think that hardware part plays a big part in this, like in just setting up your workflow. While you mentioned the screens, funny enough, I've been always one screen guy. So I have 32-inch display right here on my left. Yeah. But I've been playing around. I have another one, 32-inch. I've played around with 2 of them. It was just too much for me. I couldn't handle 2 32-inch screens, even though I'm constantly switching tabs. Yeah. I'm constantly putting 2 things on the screen next to each other. Yeah. When I had 2 of them, it was just like the real estate was just like too much. Yeah. And recently, like literally like a week ago, I set up my laptop. So I'm looking at you right now, Scott, like via screen that is on my laptop. And on the left, I have my 32-inch. So I have like now 32-inch and a 14-inch laptop. And that's kind of easier now to me to manage 2 screens like that. So I've been rocking this kind of setup for a week. So that's how I would answer your screen question. But back to the workflow with the files. So that one Lightroom catalog is the reason I prefer to have culled images elsewhere, because I don't want to dump 6, 7, 8,000 files from like entire wedding into my Lightroom catalog, cull them there, and then delete and maybe accidentally delete something. I don't want to, play with that idea. So I have just 2 folders. One is rejected files and one is picked files. And then I just import the one with the files that are picked. I keep both folders for maybe a year or even 2. So until I feel like my NAS archive is running low and I need to invest in a lot of data, I might go through rejects from like the past years and delete the rejects. But I'm keeping most of my rejects. Like from the last season, I have all of my rejects at this point, which is a lot. It's like, sometimes 200 gig, 300 gigs from a wedding. I should A7R5, huge files. And so it's a part of my kind of, I want to keep all my files. I don't delete the files until I really have to, until I'm really sure I delivered everything like years ago. I also had this kind of, probably, I don't know, each of us that have been shooting for so many time probably had similar situation, like bride reaching out a year later and they're being like, oh, someone from my family like passed away. Maybe you have more images from that person. Right. So I literally had this question like a month or 2 months after the wedding, after I delivered the wedding, and I still had the rejects. So I could go over all the rejects and being like, oh, I found like 3 more, maybe not perfect, but it was just some minor person. It was not like someone who is like VIP that I would have like hundreds of photos of, because it was someone from like the background. But still I could go through the rejects. So that kind of was probably the reason why I started doing things like I do. But so import the catalog. I import it with the preset. So my preset import, and that's it. And then I go one by one. So I used to do the editing myself. Then I used to outsource editing to a person, and now you know what I do. Yeah,
which we're going to get to very soon. We're going to get to that very soon. But before
we're like kind of like we're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're building the momentum.
Yeah. This is my favorite part of the show. I started doing this in season 2, and it becomes a really fun thing. Pick a color.
Oh, interview deck. Orange, please.
Oh, yeah. Orange. Oop, I just hit the microphone. Okay. We're going to do a magic trick. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, nice. I'm going to thumb through it. Just tell me when to stop.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. Your next question is...
Ooh. I'm nervous.
Oddly, we talked about school. So what was the most memorable class you've ever taken in school or college?
Damn. Okay.
That's a
memorable class.
Mm-hmm. my answer would be really funny. And totally American.
Can I hear your answer first?
So when I was in college, I had one more like health class that I had to take for like a couple more credits. And the college I was not near a beach or anything like that, but they offered canoeing as a class. And so I took it. So the most memorable was learning how to canoe and do emergency things like, okay, if the canoe capsizes, how do you get back on it and flip it, all yourself? So I had to do all that. How do you drag a canoe when it's filled with water? All that kind of stuff. We started in the Olympic-sized swimming pool that was on campus. And then when the weather got warmer out, we went out to this man-made lake pond thing and did it out there. So that was the most memorable because it was totally useless education-wise. Just fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think European system is more useless. I remember a lesson it was called, what was the name of the class? The knowledge of society, or maybe I'm not even sure what was the class, but I remember we went outdoors to like a soccer field, football field we call it, and we were supposed to throw rocks. Guy, like our teacher, like drew a line and be like, oh, you have to throw there, and it's like really close, like maybe just a couple of meters, couple of feet, and then he told us it was to teach us how to throw a grenade.
Oh,
it's just so like what, like doesn't make any sense, like how, like does throwing a rock translates to throwing a grenade. So that was a weird one.
That's memorable.
So when you said that, for some reason I haven't thought about that experience for like 20 years, and it just like pop in my head.
But you come on the Workflows Photography podcast, you might be talking about weird stuff like that.
Weird stuff like that. But yeah, I was a math guy. I was like a math and English lessons guy. Although I remember my English teacher, like she hated me and my colleague who was sitting next to me, because like we were keep like joking and stuff. My friend would keep drawing like not censored things in his book. Funny enough, now he is he does this for money. Like he draws not very nice things for like a major news stations, like a satire comic art kind of thing. So like he kind of became this, which is interesting because we were both drawing this, and now he gets to do it for money. That's just
but you get to have fun for money too, though. So that's
right. I drew my drawings on my website, so maybe I'm also making money out of it.
Yeah. Your website definitely stands out. So we're going to get to, even though you've mentioned where everybody can already listen to you, learn more about you and all that stuff. We're gonna
awesome.
You have an opportunity to say it again in a minute or so. So my last question before we dive into that is, how did Imagen impact your life?
It's very simply. It just saved even more time, because prior to Imagen, I was, for one season, I was outsourcing my edits. So I would call my images, and the bunch of images that I had selected, I would send over via Lightroom catalog to my colleague who would edit them. It would take a couple days. It would came back, and I would go one after one image, like slightly correcting and making my finals. So now, like the process, and I would pay, like, let's say X amount. I don't want to throw her under the bus or something with how much I paid, because I don't know who's listening to this. Maybe I had a special price or something. So let's say it costed X for 1,000 images. Mm-hmm. And now the process is exactly the same. But the difference is that when I send the photos to Imagen, 5 minutes later, they're back. And then I go one by one and do exactly the same process and pay one third of X. for
Right,
this.
right.
And my images can be delivered the same day that I called them, which is usually the case. So that's just like, releasing so much of time, because because nowadays I'm just so much into making other things like scripting, writing a lot of things. So my time is divided into many things. Yeah. I usually, when I want to edit photos and have it delivered, like keeping that thing, as a one process is just so much better that I don't have to, especially that I'm doing this very last minute. I'm thinking I need to deliver. So I try to deliver between 4 to 6 weeks. And that means that, so first I'm going to do the sneak peeks on the day one. So right after the wedding, I deliver a whole bunch of sneak peeks. So my sneak peeks are like 50 images. So it kind of fulfills my couple needs until the full gallery is ready. Right. They have things to share with their family. So in my sneak peeks, it's like a storytelling sneak peek. There's a scene setting, there's getting ready, there's a couple group shots, couple portraits. So there's like a couple photos from each section of the wedding day. So this kind of fulfills the purpose of my couple being like super happy right away. And then I deliver the rest within like 4 to 6 weeks. So usually in week 5, I'll be like, okay, that's the day. I'm doing this today. And then having to wait another couple days after that was like always like a little bit struggle for me. So it just zipped that process into one quick process, which is nice. I like this.
Yeah. It's nice that to like loop it back around to, when the beginning of the conversation, you during the pandemic diversified your revenue portfolio by starting the YouTube channel. You're doing workshops, you're doing all these things, and now by using Imagen in your life, you in theory have even more time to work on those revenue opportunities by still taking on the same amount of weddings. So whereas some people might be like, I'm going to ramp up how many weddings I can do because now I have more time and it's faster for me to turn around things.
For me,
you're keeping the same level of weddings, but spending a lot of time on
all the other stuff. Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
So now I have a question. When will Imagen make a tool to edit my YouTube videos? This is
it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot.
This summer.
Yeah. It comes up quite often. It came up a lot at Imaging USA as well, which by the time this episode airs, Imaging USA is long past, but it came up a lot in person. It comes up a lot in the community and so on. But okay, now you've already mentioned this earlier. I'm going to ask it again. Where can all listeners learn more about you, connect with you, and of course, see your incredible photography and also your YouTube videos?
Yeah, 3 words. This is what you need to remember. Magic Wedding Photographer. So magicweddingphotographer.com is my website. education.magicweddingphotographer.com is my education website. And then there's YouTube, Magic Wedding Photographer, Instagram, Magic Wedding Photographer, TikTok, which I do in Polish, actually. That's my thing that I started beginning of this year. And I started this because I wanted to reach local audience. And I found, this might be a tip for those of you who have not been using TikTok, that is just so well, connected with the geographic placement where you are. So when I was trying to do like whatever I'm doing on Instagram, which I do for like kind of worldwide audience. So I have people from all over places watching my Instagram stories, my Instagram reels. When I would try to repost this stuff on like the TikTok, which had like 0 followers yet, because I just started this, it would just not fly at all. Because like TikTok would try to show it to local people because they would see, oh, you're in Poland, we're going to show it to your local people. 0 engagement. And then then what I started doing was I started watching local TikToks. So I started seeing like what people around me are doing, and would just do kind of similar, but with my spin on it, but in Polish. And it started picking up so simple. So yeah.
What a great takeaway.
Interesting question. So if there are like people maybe struggle to do something on TikTok, maybe try changing your audience, like idea for your audience. Because also, I don't know, like many wedding photographers have followers of wedding photographers on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Instagram became this platform for wedding photographers, basically. So that's also a huge thing that I discovered, last couple years probably, that there's just so many wedding photographers that I'm still trying to keep my Instagram as a place more for the bride. So my feed will be mostly weddings and wedding photos. And I do book weddings through Instagram, and couples do connect me through Instagram. But then whenever I post a story or reel, in the comments, it's always only photographers. So with reels and stories, I started more targeting my education side. It's always a problem with in our kind of business when you're like both your service, your clients are couples and your clients are wedding photographers, how to divide it. So my YouTube is 100% photographers. My Instagram would be 50-50. It used to be mostly couples. Now it's mostly photographers. So I'm trying to kind of please both. But with Instagram Reels and Stories, I'm targeting photographers. With my feed, I'm trying to keep it as a gallery for my clients that will just, if they find me, they're going to search me for Instagram 100%. So I want them to see wedding photos on my feed. Yeah. And then with TikTok is 100% for my brides. And there's no gear talking. There's no showing lenses and cameras. There's just fun wedding stuff.
Interesting. As we to wrap it up, that takeaway is that's a very valuable tip to basically recognize and address the fact that not all social platforms are the same. What works well on Instagram may not work well on TikTok. Some of them might, but it may not. And at the same time, for years, I've always been the same boat as you, where I've got two audiences, either my education or my photography clients. And when it's been brought up, why do you not have a separate Instagram account, right, for each? And I'm like, well, in a way, it's really nice for your clients to see that you're teaching as well, because it shows that you have that knowledge and that experience. So it adds more value to you as the photographer. So I do what you do. It's my feed is basically photography. My stories and reels are majority for photographers. So So I think it's definitely a great approach. So
TikTok?
Yeah.
Do you do TikTok? Before you thank me?
I do. I'm not taking advantage of it like you do. I mean, I basically, whatever I put on Instagram is going on TikTok. I don't put much effort into it, but
Try doing something else. I wonder how it would serve you. I'm not big on TikTok by any means. I maybe gathered over 2 weeks of posting a couple hundred followers, couple thousand likes, so that's nice. And I had a couple inquiries for my local weddings, which I think might have come through TikTok. So, but one last interesting fact, when I look in my audience demographics, YouTube, 90% male audience between 30 and 50, all the geeks. Obviously, I'm doing lens reviews, gear reviews, pixel peeping. Who else will watch that other than all the dudes we are thinking about pixels and stuff and lenses. Then my Instagram is 50-50 male and female between 25 and 40. So it's kind of both. And my TikTok is 100% females between 19 and 35. Which is the audience for
ideal. That's the ideal audience you want.
100% Polish local.
That is so
interesting. Is just mixed everything. So I want to leave with that. Look at your audience and think about creating for that specific audience and demographics.
100%. Nice. Fantastic way to wrap this up. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing all of your insights and all that fun stuff. I'm so glad we were able to do this.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You have been listening to Workflows, presented by Imagen. To hear more from Workflows, to find links to our guests, and for an exclusive offer for Workflows listeners, please go to imagenai.com/podcast and be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.